Good afternoon, everyone.
各位午安。
We're here for another wonderful session.
我们在这边要听另外一场这个惊心动魄的这个讲座。
This afternoon, we're going to hear a special story about a special person and his experience and why he's doing this.
那么呢，今天下午我们在这边要聆听一位弟兄跟我们分享美好的这个见证，为什么上帝呼召他，他为什么今天会在这里，在我们当中。
But before we start, let's bow our heads.
在我们开始之前，让我们做一个祷告。
Our Heavenly Father, you are the King of Kings. You are the creator of all.
天父上帝，我们感谢主，因为你是创造宇宙万物的主宰。
You're the creator of the universe, and most of all, you're the creator of this person, this body.
主啊，你创造了宇宙万物，你也创造了这一位弟兄。
You know how it works, and you have given us a special instruction book on how it works.
主啊，你也知道说我们要如何的活出一个健康的人生，而且你带领我们、教导我们，透过这一本书。
May your Holy Spirit be here today.
今天你愿你的圣灵与我们同在。
As you guide us and instruct us and show us how this wonderful body works and how to take care of it properly.
当我们学会如何的要让自己活得更健康的时候，愿你的话语指导我们。
All this we pray in the name of Jesus.
如此祷告，奉主耶稣基督的圣名祈求。
Amen.
阿门。
And now I'd like to invite Dr. Hans Diel out
我
and
们
give
现在
his
那个
life story.
我们邀请这个戴汉斯博士来跟我们分享他的这个人生见证。
Thank you and good afternoon.
谢谢各位各位午安。
The Jewish people found themselves in a 70-year captivity in Babylon.
那么这个犹太人呢，就被巴比伦就是掳掠，然后呢，就是他们在那边掳掠70年，被掳掠70年。
And then God sends an assuring message to the people in captivity through Jeremiah.
然后呢，上帝就透过这个他的先知耶利米呢，把这个话语告诉这个犹太人。
And the message is, "For I know what I'm doing."
那么呢，上帝所告诉犹太人的信息就是说，我知道我所做的事情是什么。
I have it all planned out for you.
我有给你们有很好的这个计划
Plans to take care of you.
我的计划呢，就是要眷顾照顾你们。
Plans to give you a future you hope for.
我要给你们的呢，就是要赐平安，叫你们有这个末后的盼望的。
You know, it's very, very interesting that we live our lives in a forward-looking mode.
那么我们知道说，我们所活的呢，生活就是一种，就是我们是看着远望这个未来的。
We're in a courtship arrangement and we look forward to marriage.
我们呢，比方说我们定好要结婚，我们就有这个结婚的那一天。
We have the wedding and then we're looking forward to children and creating a family.
然后呢，当我们结婚之后，我们就会计划说我们要有一个家庭，要有一个孩子。
And then you look for a job and you find a job and you look for success and fulfillment in the job.
然后呢，就是你希望能够计划说要有一个好的工作，并且要有一个很好的一个财务管理，并且你能够过得一个很成功的人生。
Our lives are usually lived in looking towards the future in a forward mode.
所以我们的这个人生呢，通常都是向前面看要这个往前面有这个计划。
So we live life in a forward mode.
所以我们住的这个世界呢，就是有一个往前面所仰望过去将来的计划。
But we understand life looking backwards.
但是呢，我们知道我们的这个人生，我们所走过的道路是什么，所以我们也往后面看。
So I like to look back at my life.
所以我呢也希望能够去看我自己的这个过去的人生。
And there I found and identified many doors.
那我就发现说有很多的这个门
And I also found out that God is still in the business of opening doors today.
那么呢，我到现在我还知道说，好像上帝还继续的为我呢打开我的人生的大门。
So that you can keep track of my doors.
所以上帝就能够继续的为我开，我也能够继续的去看一看上帝如何的为我开了门。
I've numbered them from 1 to 9.
我呢就把这些上帝给我开的门呢，这个从1号到9号呢取了号码。
So when you see number 7 or number 8, you know we're almost done.
所以如果当你听到我是第7道或者是第8道门的时候，我就快要讲完了。
So here's door number 1.
这个呢是我的第一道大门。
I was born into a very humble family after World War II in Germany.
我呢是这个第2次世界大战之后，在德国的一个很卑微的家庭所出生的。
We were a Lutheran family, like most people in Germany at that time were.
我们呢是这个信义会路德教会的这个教友，大部分的这个德国人的基督徒呢，在那个时代都是信义会路德会的。
It was right after World War II.
因为那个时候呢，正好是这个第2次世界大战结束以后。
We were poor.
我们当时很穷
，like most people were poor then.
就好像是大部分的人都很穷一样。
We had nothing.
我们什么都没有。
We were dependent on care parcels coming from America.
那么呢，我们是这个得到美国所寄来的一些食品呢，来帮助我们。
But it's not only the care parcels that came to America, but we also had a baker that came to visit us once a week to bring us a special kind of loaf of bread.
然后呢，不单单是这些美国所寄来的一些这个食品呢，就是我们每一个星期一次，我们有这个烧烤，就是做面包的人呢，他会来我们的城镇跟我们分享，让我们能够吃。
I was the oldest of 6 children.
我呢是这个家里有6个兄弟姐妹。
And on Wednesday nights, the Adventist baker would come and bring us this Graham bread. It was wonderful.
然后呢，就是有一个安息日会的这个烘烤面包的呢，先生呢，他会带来一种面包，我们很喜欢吃的。
But I was about 13, 14 years of age, and that's an age when you are very, very curious.
我当时是13、14岁左右对不起，我刚刚忘记讲，我是家里排行老大。然后呢，我对于他所做的面包呢很好奇。
So when that baker would come on Wednesday night to bring us the bread, he would also engage my father in some interesting discussions, and I was all ears.
然后呢，就是每一次他这位这个烤面包的师傅呢，拿一些面包来给我们家的时候呢，他总是会跟我爸爸讲一些话呢，好像很有趣，我会经常注意在那边听。
I mean, he talked about Daniel.
他就讲到关于这个但以理。
You know, the book of Daniel in the Bible?
他在讲说，关于这个圣经里面的但以理书。
I knew all these stories about Daniel in the lion's den and the fiery, all these things. I knew these stories, nothing special. But this man was different.
然后呢，我知道说，好像这个但以理书的，好像里面关于好像讲到这个被丢在火里面的啦，狮子坑的这些故事，我都知道。然后，但是这一个人他讲的内容呢，很不一样。
He talked about the book of Daniel as a book of prophecy that would outline world empires that would appear on the world's stage.
他呢就跟我的父亲讲，好像这个但以理书这个预言呢，好像关于说将来会发生的事情，一个一个会发生的一些事情。
The book of Daniel, he talked about the big and mighty empire of Babylon to be succeeded by Medo-Persia, to be succeeded by Greece, and then by Rome.
然后呢，他就跟我们讲到说，这个但以理书里面讲到说，这个帝国巴比伦之后呢，有这个马代波斯，马代波斯之后呢，就兴起这个希腊，希腊之后有这个罗马帝国。
And then that empire would disintegrate into 10 major nations in Europe.
然后这个罗马帝国呢，之后还会再分成这个10个不同的这个欧洲的国家。
And I got very suspicious.
然后我就是非常的这个好奇。
I never heard anything like this.
我从来都没有听过这种解释。
To be written in the book of Daniel.
在这个但以理书里面也没有写的这么详细。
So when he left, I said to my father, "I don't know about this man."
然后呢，当他就是离开我父亲的时候，我就觉得说好像很怀疑。
So I looked at my Bible.
所以我就看一看我的圣经。
And there it was. It talks about those empires that are showing up on the world screens.
然后这个圣经里面真的是有讲到，好像这个10个脚趾头之后呢，这些国家分裂的国家。
And the next week when he came back,
然后呢，在下一个星期他再回来之后，
he talked about Jesus as being Creator God.
然后呢，他就讲到说，这个耶稣是被创造的这个上帝对不起，这个上帝，耶稣是创造世界的这个上帝。
Jesus was Creator.
耶稣是创造世界的。
I never heard that in the Lutheran Church.
我在这个信义会、路德会从来都没听过。
He was the Son of God that came later on.
他那个不是这个上帝的独生子吗？是后来出生的。
And then he said, well, here are the Bible verses. Through him, everything is made, and for him is everything made. He is the creator God, Jesus.
然后就是他就跟我们看那个圣经章节，就说是任何的万物呢都是借着他而创造，所以耶稣呢是创造主。
He existed from the beginning of time with God the Father.
他呢从一开始就跟父神同在。
That was rather unusual for me to understand.
对我来说是一个非常的不寻常的事情。
I mean, if Jesus was a creator
如果说耶稣是一个创造主，
and he was a redeemer,
他又是这个救赎主，
then he would be the only God of all the religions where the creator God would die for his creatures.
那他如果这样的话，就等于就是他所有的这个宇宙万物当中，就只有这么一个上帝呢，他自己又是创造主，他又是这个来到世界上，又是救赎他的这些被造物的。
That's a big enlargement for me theologically of what God was like.
所以这个对我来说，就是好像这个神学上面是一种非常大的一个我能够重新看见的一个亮光，关于说上帝是什么样的一位上帝。
Well, he had some other interesting ideas that he would share with us in subsequent visits.
然后呢，他就是经常不断的来拜访的时候呢，还有跟我们分享其他的一些我们所不知道的一些亮光。
And I was taking some special instruction from the Lutheran pastor to be eligible for taking communion service as a young adult.
然后呢，我因为在我自己的这个信义会在路德会里面呢，有牧师教导我说，可以在这个分享圣餐礼的时候要该怎么做的事情，我也学到了。
And so I began to raise some of the questions about subjects that I had learned and listened into from this Adventist baker. I asked my Lutheran pastor.
所以呢，我就从这一位这个安息日会的这个面包烘烤师傅当中所学到的一些内容，我把这些内容拿去问我的路德会信义会的牧师。
And while he tried to explain things to me,
所以他要试着跟我解释的事情就是说，
it became very obvious that he didn't have very, very convincing arguments.
然后呢，他就觉得好像就是他没有好像很能够被他说服的一种这个内容呢，从我的口中所告诉这位牧师的。
Ultimately, the Adventist baker introduced me to a young Adventist minister.
然后呢，后来这一位安息日会的这个面包师傅就把我介绍给这个比较年轻的一位安息日会的一个牧师。
And I met with him for 52 weeks, once a week, a Bible study.
然后我就跟着这个年轻的安息日会的牧师呢，我就每一个礼拜跟他学一次圣经，学了52个星期。
It was absolutely fascinating to begin to understand some of the biblical concepts.
然后呢，这对我来说是一个非常有趣的一个就是圣经的一个学习的内容。
And so ultimately, I became an Adventist member.
我呢就成为一个安息日会的教友。
And I began to realize that this baker not only brought us the Graham bread, which we loved, but he also brought us the bread of life.
然后呢，就是我们就知道说，这位这个面包烘烤师傅他所给我的呢，不单单只是这个好吃的这个属肉体的面包，他把这个属灵的灵粮也带来给我们。
And I also learned that if you want to win people,
我现在也学到，我后来也学到，就是如果说我们希望能够把人带到耶稣面前，
to understand your perspective of life,
你希望能够把这个对生命的这个意义呢是如何的？
you don't do it by being argumentative. And
说实在
I'm right and you're wrong.
说实在，就是你一开始的做法，不是说是跟人家辩论说我是对的，你是错的。
To win a person over,
要
it happens much better and easier when you're gracious and loving and they understand that this is not a matter of matching wits. This is a matter of just sharing what is important to you.
那么呢，就说是要把人带到耶稣的面前呢，最好的方式就是你必须要为人呢，就是亲切和蔼，而且不要让人家知道说这个东西呢只是一种理论，而是你真的是只是单纯的很希望能够把这些信息呢分享出去。
I adapted very easily to the Adventist church members.
然后呢，我就成为这个安息日会的教友。
I made many friends there.
我在这个安息日会的教会呢，也遇到很多的人。
And I was amazed at the mission outreach program of the Adventist Church.
那就说是在这个安息日会的教会的这种这个传道的这个方式啊。
On Sabbath morning, they used to have a special mission report.
在这个安息天早上呢，他们有一个这个圣工消息哈。
I mean, I couldn't believe it. They talked about missionary activities on the Amazon in South America.
让我很难能够相信是他们在那个安息天早上讲说这个在亚马逊河那边呢，他们所做的这个安息日会的传道这个事工哈。
They talked about as Adventist missionaries reaching out to the cannibals of New Guinea.
然后呢，他们讲到说好像是这个新几内亚。
I mean, this was almost like a geography lesson.
他们对我来说好像是一个这个上地理课一样哈。
A relatively small denomination with a world outreach program.
那么呢，这个真的是这安息日会的布道呢，就是对全世界的一种布道方式啊。
However,
但是
some of my friends in the church there
我们那个一些在教会的一些朋友们呢
left.
他们离开了
Much to my disappointment,
他们的离开对我是很失望的。
they migrated to Canada.
他们呢，因为移民到加拿大去了。
And from that time on, they would always write to me, leave Germany. Germany is too small. Come to where the action is going to be. This is the giant, the economic giant of tomorrow, Canada.
所以呢，他们就从加拿大呢一直写信给我，告诉我说：“离开德国吧，德国太小了，你应该要到这个经济发展这么好的、更大的这个国家加拿大来。”他一直写信给我。
You can travel for 5 days on a train and never have to show your passport, and you still speak the same language.
他说：“你可以就是好像就是在加拿大呢，就是搭火车搭5天到6天呢，就是还看不到这个国家的尾端，而且呢，你不需要就是那个不需要给他看你的这个护照。”
And of course, when you're young, you're full of adventure.
然后就是你到了加拿大呢，他还跟你讲同样的话啊，然后就是说，你年轻的时候呢，就觉得说很喜欢冒險旅行。
But first, I had to finish my schooling, and then I had to finish my 3-year traineeship in a large corporation in Germany, where I was trained as a person in marketing and export affairs and so on.
然后呢，我就是需要先把这些我的学业完成，就是学业完成之后呢，还有这个3年的关于这种这个企业管理方面的这些训练啊。
This was a company that was known in Germany for producing high-quality kitchen items, such as mixers and blenders and coffee grinders and these kind of things.
这些是因为这家公司就是在德国呢，他们是生产一些就是厨房的一些道具哈，比方说是那个你可以做咖啡来喝的啦，这些不同的一些那个器材。
And when I finished my training with this corporation,
然后当我就是跟这家公司呢，做完我的训练之后。
the element of adventure began to boil within me.
然后就是这个想要就是不同的地方冒险旅行的这种欲望呢，就在我的内心当中呢，越来越渴望。
And my friends would write, "Come to Canada. Don't stay in that small country of Germany."
然后就是我的朋友一直写信给我说：“你来加拿大吧，不要一直待在那个小国家德国。”
And then I realized that we had a corporation. A branch office in Montreal, and my friends were living in Montreal.
然后我就想到说，后来才知道说，原来这个在加拿大的蒙特罗呢，有我们这家德国公司的分公司，而且我的朋友也住在这个加拿大的蒙特罗。
That was a no-brainer.
当时呢，就是我没有这么样子的这个计划好。
I talked to my parents.
我跟我的父母亲说了
Said, "Would it be okay if I'm going to check out to go to Canada?"
我跟我的父母亲说，我可不可以试试看，说我看看加拿大可不可以去发展。
And they were kind of relieved because they would give them one more bedroom for the other brothers and sisters.
然后其实我的父母亲觉得说，好像就是听得更高兴，因为呢，他们想把我睡的那个房间腾出来给我其他的那个弟弟妹妹。
So I arrived in Canada with my friends.
所以我就去那个加拿大找我的朋友。
And as I'm going to the Adventist Church in Montreal,
然后我就去加拿大这个蒙特罗的这个安息日会教会。
the people are curious about me.
人们对我其实很好奇。
I have a heavy German accent.
我有那个很浓厚的这个讲英文有德国腔调。
And they said, "What are you doing?"
他说：“你们在这，他们问我你在这边干什么？”
I said, "Oh, I'm changing the coffee drinking behaviors of Canadian people."
我就说我要来这边改变这个加拿大人喝咖啡的习惯。
What do you mean?
他说你说这些话是什么意思啊
I mean, just look at what these people do in Canada. They have coffee that sits on the shelf for months and years, and that's what they drink.
我就告诉他们说，你看他们那些加拿大人，他们把那些咖啡呢放在这个橱子里面呢，就是几个月或者是1年以上呢都不去动它，然后最后又去喝这些东西。
And then say, what do you plan to do?
然后他问我说，那你想要计划怎么做？
I introduce them to my corporation's coffee grinders.
我要把我的公司所卖的这个磨咖啡豆的这个机器呢介绍给他们。
Electric coffee grinders.
是用电来发动来磨咖啡的豆。
And you open up the aroma of the coffee bean.
然后就是你一当打开之后呢，你就闻到这个咖啡的香味。
And that starts your day right.
然后就是让他我讲的这些话呢，就吸引他们的注意。
It's going to be a good day.
我一定能够卖得很好的。
Thanks to my coffee grinder.
所以呢，感谢我的这个咖啡豆磨。
And these Adventist people looked at me and they said, "I don't understand. You do what?"
他们这些安息日会的人居然看着我说：“哈，你说你要做什么？”
And you see, Adventists, at least traditionally, didn't used to drink caffeinated drinks.
你知道这个其实安息日会的人，很多的人在传统上他们是不喝咖啡的。
And then they asked me, "Are you an Adventist?"
那他们就问我说：“你是安息日会的吗？”
And you're selling coffee grinders to produce more coffee drinking behaviors?
然后就说：“哦，你是一个安息日会的，那你还卖这个磨咖啡的这个机器药，然后就是推销咖啡啊。”
And all of a sudden it dawned on me.
然后那时候才真的是让我就是很惊讶。
It didn't make sense.
哦，这个对我来说好像不合理啊。
Something wasn't quite jiving.
好像这个非常很不合理啊。
And then I made an unusual discovery.
然后我就发现到有这样一个这个很令人惊讶的一种发现啊。
And that discovery is called social upward mobility.
这个发现呢，就是说是在这个社区里面呢，有一些人是好像就是没有办法能够行动的很好的。
Wherever you are on the social scale, you can move upwards.
对不起就是说是在这个社会当中呢，你可以让自己的这个地位能够逐渐的提升啊。
At this time in Germany,
你知道在那个时代在德国啊。
if your father was a plumber, you would probably become a plumber as a son.
比方说，就是在德国呢，那个时代呢，如果说你的父亲是一位这个水电工，然后呢，你的儿子呢，也就有可能会继承父亲的职位，变成水电工。
If he was a university professor, chances are you become probably an academician as a young man.
那如果说是你是这个父母亲是这个大学的教授呢，那你会进入大学好像也是很容易的。
But in Canada and in the United States, they said you can become anything you want to become. All you have to do is pay the price.
你知道，就他们讲说是这个在加拿大跟美国跟德国不一样，在加拿大、德国你要做什么事情你都可以做得到，就说你只需要付出代价。
And you pay the price by education, education, education.
那怎么跟着做呢？就是你必须要接受教育，接受教育，接受教育。
And at that time, I felt the claims of God on my life.
当时我就觉得好像这个上帝在我的内心当中。
And as it was fashionable in the Adventist community at that time,
当时就是在这个安息日会的这个社区里面
young people would either become nurses, or they become teachers, or they become medical or dental people.
就说是他们那个如果说是成为就是安息日会的工作人员呢，你要不然就是成为比方说是老师，成为这个医疗人员，成为这个牙医师啦等等的这些执照，这些工作。
And so now that I realized I could become anything I wanted to become, I am very high.
然后后来我就觉得是非常的兴奋，说我知道我能够做任何我想要达到目的的是工作。
I will become a physician.
我就想要就是成为一个医生。
I will serve people.
我要就是来服务人员。
But then I realized that if you wanted to go to an Adventist university, you have to have the money to pay for it.
然后呢，后来我才知道说，原来我想去这个安息日会的大学读书的话呢，你必须要有足够的金钱来付这个学费。
And I couldn't count on my parents.
我就没有办法能够去依赖我的父母亲。
I had to do it myself.
我就必须要自己来做。
And then I saw an advertisement for becoming involved in working in a mine.
In the mine, coal mine.
Coal mine.
那么呢，我后来就是有这个机会能够去做这个煤矿工的这个工作。
It was a nickel mine,
也是这个铂或者是这个铝箔矿啊。
and it was in the Canadian bush, way up north.
这个是在加拿大的很北边。
No cities, no communities around, just the mine and work.
当那个地方呢，就是没有任何其他的这个城市在那边，那么你在那边只能够做这种就是这个挖这种金属的矿工。
And good money,
他的给你付的学费很好。
and no place to spend it.
就是没有地方你能够付钱花这个你把赚的钱呢，你在那个地方没有地方可以花。
I was getting ready for education.
我就是准备好说要接受我的教育。
Now, on the way to traveling to this northern bush area to the mine,
然后呢，就是从我这个旅行到这么北的地方的这个金属矿工的地方，
I came a big sign
在这个金属矿场之前，我要到那边，我看到一个很大的一个招牌，
that said, "You have entered the coldest spot in Canada, minus 72 degrees with a wind chill factor."
然后呢，就是它这边有一个很大的一个这个指标的目标，就讲说是你要进入加拿大最冷的地方零下72度。
You have no idea how cold that is.
你不晓得说到底那个是多冷的地方
It was so cold that if I would talk to to someone there outdoors,
如果是你知道那个是那么冷，如果说我在门外站在门外跟人家讲话的时候，
the words that I would say to that person would be frozen in midair.
我说出去的话呢，都会就是在空中呢变得是冷冻的。
You had several long johns pants on. You had the big parkers on. The only thing that was exposed were 2 eyes. Everything else was covered.
就说是你要穿那个好几条裤子，你要穿很厚的这个雪衣呢，全身包住，只有眼睛能够看得见。
But it doesn't matter if the dream is big enough. The facts don't matter.
但是呢，如果说我的梦想是够大的话，这些细节对我来说不重要。
I knew what I wanted and I was going to go for it.
我知道说我要将来要做的是什么，而且呢，我要得到这个目的。
I mean, it's true. It was pretty cold up there. I mean, really, really cold.
我真的是到了那边，我真的是觉得很冷。
It's true. It was 10 months winter and the rest was summer.
你知道那个真的是一年当中10个月都是冬天，只有2个月是夏天。
But the dream was alive.
但是呢，我的梦想是真的。
I worked in the mine.
我在这个金属矿场里面工作。
Not underground.
那个不是在地下的。
I worked in the warehouse.
我是在他们的这个仓库里面工作的。
As a matter of fact, I had 2 jobs.
事实上，我有2个工作。
I was going to make it count.
我本来想要就说是要好好的来做的。
I would take care of the cleaning of the rooms of the miners.
我想要就是把那些矿工的所住的宿舍、他们的房间帮他们打扫干净。
That was after hours, but during my regular work, I worked in the warehouse to distribute the things that miners needed to have.
我就是在这个白天是在这个这个仓库里面工作，就是把那些所有这些矿工们所需要的这些物品呢，都送给他们，然后晚上呢，我就帮他们清洁这些房间。
And it wasn't very long before the miners began to understand that I was going to be a medical doctor.
然后呢，就是后来这些矿工呢，他们就知道说，原来我是想要成为一个医生。
And I became the butt of many jokes.
然后呢，成为就是他们的很多的人，这个被他们嘲笑、开玩笑的对象。
He can't even speak properly English, and then he wants to be a doctor.
他们就是在开玩，他们想说，这个人连英文都讲得不好，他要成为医生。
Well, you see, I had gone to this mine actually not only for saving money, but also to learn English because I'd come from Montreal where they speak French.
我为什么还到这个矿场去工作呢？因为我所住的那个蒙特罗那个地方其实是讲法语的，所以我到那个矿场的这个加拿大的北边这边去呢，我跟他们在一起说可以讲英语。
But it didn't take very long before I found out.
但是呢，后来我才发现到这个事情。
These miners really didn't speak English; they spoke profane.
你知道吗？我后来才知道，原来这些矿工他们讲的不是真正的是道地的英文，他们是讲那种脏话、粗话。
I had my German dictionary.
我有我的这个德文的这个字典。
I looked up some of these words that these miners were using.
我看一看，就是这些人所用的这个单字。
And I couldn't find them in my dictionary.
在我的字典里面，我是找不到的。
So I'd go to my foreman.
所以我就
To my boss.
就问我的这个老板。
I said, "Can you tell me what that means?"
我问老板说：“哎，这句话什么意思啊
And he said, "Don't talk to me about this." ？”
他就说：“哎呦，你不要再用这些字眼。”
So I knew there was something fishy.
我知道，哎呦，这些都是不好的字眼。
If it wasn't in the dictionary, perhaps I shouldn't use it in my vocabulary. Don't integrate it into my vocabulary.
所以如果说这些字呢是在字典里面没有的话，我就不应该用啊。如果说我的字典没有告诉我，我就不要用这些字。
So they had a good time in poking fun at me.
所以他们呢嘲笑我，他们很开心。
They had a good time at my expense.
因为呢他们会使用我来让他们开心。
So I would get a requisition form that they turned into me and they said, "We need 12 left-handed screwdrivers."
那他们就会告诉我说，我们需要好像就是那个12个就是左撇子的这种那个怎么讲，就是那个螺丝起子。
I didn't know that there was not such a thing. I was just looking all over the shelves. Left-handed screwdrivers, left-handed screwdrivers. I couldn't find them.
我不晓得说好像他们是原来这个是开玩笑，没有什么左撇子的那个螺丝起子，没有这样一回事。我就真的是到这个仓库一个一个去找左撇子的。
And so they would come to me and say, "Where are the screwdrivers?"
然后他们就会故意来跟我说，哎，我们要的左撇子的这个螺丝起子在哪？
I said, "We're out of screwdrivers. The left-handed screwdrivers are we don't have any more."
我就说我们的那个左撇子的用的这个螺丝起子没有了。
Ha 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 ha! Yeah. And then they would come and they have a requisition. We need 5-gallon drums of 5-gallon containers of blue steam.
No translation available in Chinese dictionary.
So I look over the shelves. Blue steam, blue steam, blue steam. No blue steam. So I tell the miners, "Sorry, we're out of blue steam."
然后我就到这个整个这个好像是仓库里面去找这个蓝色的水蒸气，对不起没有。
Ha 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 ha. And then they send a requisition. We need a 90-gallon drum of soap stretcher.
然后他们说要19个加仑的什么肥皂拉肥皂的这种那个什么液体。
So look at my German dictionary. Soap, yeah.
所以我到那个我的字典去看，
Stretcher, yeah.
有那个什么是的，有这个这个肥皂也有，还有这个拉开这个字也有，
But there's no soap stretcher.
但是没有一个什么叫做拉开肥皂的这种道具。
So I tell the miners, "Sorry, we don't have any soap stretcher."
我就告诉那些那个矿工说，对不起，没有这个撑开肥皂的这个道具。
This is essential for running the mine.
这个是他们说这个是在矿场里面是很重要的东西。
Look for it again.
再去找吧。
I spent the whole day looking for big drums of soap stretcher.
然后就是我整个好像仓库花一整天时间去找这个什
Couldn't
么
find them.
什么这个肥皂拉开的道具没有。
Then they sent me to the purchasing agent within the company.
然后呢，他们又把我送到好像就是我们公司里面的这个采购部门。
And I said, "Sir, I'm looking for soap stretcher. Can you tell me what the inventory is?"
然后我就到这个采购部门去问说，先生，请你告诉我说，好像哪里我可以找得到这个撑开肥皂的这个小道具？哪里能够就是问他这个东西的来源？
It was one of those Rolodex cards.
然后他们
Remember those?
我们知道就是有那种就是指标的这些那个这个卡片哈。
And he looked it up, soap stretcher.
他就去看一看，
And I should have been suspicious because there was a new handwriting there.
然后我就觉得说很奇怪，因为里头都是有那些那个用手
And
写
it
的。
said 1 90-gallon inventory left.
然后这边小说是那个这个19个这个加仑的这个东西呢没有了。
He said, "You got to find it. The mine has to shut down if you cannot find it."
然后他说你必须要把它找出来哦，因为如果说你不把这个找出来，整个矿场都会这个是这个停电了，或者是不能够起作用了。
So I went back to my foreman in the warehouse and I said, "I cannot find it." And he said, "Oh, we have another small depot, a small area where we store special items. Go up there and check with this Polish man there. He runs this place there."
然后我就回去我的仓库那边，老板跟我的老板说，哎，老板呢，我找不到这个老板就我们在那边还有另外一个这个小小的这个仓库，你去跟那边那个小仓库里面那个波兰人去讲。
So I go there through the bitter coldness just like this.
所以我在那边就是哇，在这么寒冷的时候，我就是只能够眼睛能够看得到的这样的。
I come to this small warehouse
我就到这个小小的这个仓库，
and meet this Polish man.
跟这个仓库里面那个波兰人问，
He doesn't speak good English. I don't speak good English.
他也这个波兰人他英文讲得不好，我的英文也讲得不好，我们两个人就是鸡同鸭讲。
And I show him soap stretcher, drum. So we turn all the drums around.
那我就看到他有一个这个像是这个鼓一样的鼓皮，他就把这个整个鼓呢给它转过来。
Many of them are dirty.
他这
You
些
can hardly read the writing on the drums.
这些那个这个鼓上面这些那个都非常肮脏，看不到。
And we find naphtha gas and benzene and gas. We find everything, but we cannot find soap stretcher.
那我们就是把所有的东西都插过去看一看呢，看不到这个 soap stretcher 这个字。
He said, "Niet, niet, niet, yeah, no, 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 nothing here."
他说这个不行，这个不行，这些东西都不行。
So I go back to the warehouse.
所以我又回到我的仓库里面，
I already spent 3 days checking for this big drum of soap stretcher.
我花了3天的时间在找这个撑开肥皂的器具。
And then my foreman tells me,
然后
"You have an appointment tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with the general manager of the mine. Dr. McCune is waiting for you."
然后这个我的那个老板就跟我讲说，明天早上9点呢，这个矿场的老板要跟你见面。
And I know my career goals have come to an end. I will never be able to stay any longer in this mine. They're going to
那我就想说明天我要跟矿场的老板见面，我大概就是会失去这个工作，他们要把我开除了。
Next morning, I'm into the office of Dr. McCune.
然后那个第二天早上我就到这个 Dr. McEwen 这个老板的办公室去，
Big, thick carpet, very plush. Everything is nice.
然后就是他的办公室这个整个这个地毯都铺得好好的，很干净。
I feel totally out of place the way I'm dressed and everything else.
我就觉得好像就是我的穿的这个衣服这个
And
样
then
子
the
呢。
big boss gives me a nice smile.
然后这个大老板他就笑着，
And he says, "Please sit down."
他说：“请你坐下来。”
And I know it's going to be the end of my career.
我想说大概是我最后一天工作了。
And then he said, "I understand you have spent 4 days on company's time to looking for soap stretcher. Is that correct?"
然后他说：“我知道说你是不是花了4天的时间这个在寻找这个撑开肥皂的道具啊？”
And he looks at me, "Is it correct?" I said, "Yes, sir.
他看着我，我说：“是的。
I've looked everywhere."
我什么地方都看过了。”
Then he looks at me and he says, "You know, it's something like a sky hook."
他说
Sky hook.：“
他说这个好像是这个从天上掉下来的陷阱一样，
No,
天上掉下来的陷阱。”
You never know what they can do in Canada or in America. Sky hook. What's a sky hook?
他说：“你不晓得在美国和加拿大可以做什么事？什么叫做天上掉下来的陷阱？”
And then he tells me, he said, "You know, these miners are very hardworking people. They're working here in the frozen north of Canada, and they send their money home to their families."
他说：“你知道吗？这些人呐，他们那个在加拿大最冷的这个地方，这些工作呢，他们就是为了要赚一些钱，能够把这些钱送回去给他们的家人。
But there's no entertainment here in this place.
你知道，但是在这个地方，他们没有其他的娱乐啊，
No cinemas,
没有这个电影院，
no bars,
没有这个酒吧，
just work, work, work.
就是工作、工作再工作。”
And he said, "You have to understand something," he said.
他说：“你必须要明白
"You are providing the entertainment of the miners."
你呀来这边就是等于就是你这为我们这些矿工呢带来他们的娱乐娱性节目。”
And he said, "Don't you understand?
他说：“难道你不明白吗？
Don't you understand? They're just pulling your leg."
这个就好像就是扯你的后腿一样。”
I said, "Who's pulling my leg?" I didn't
So-
understand.
我说：“什么叫做扯后腿啊？谁在拉我的后腿？我也都听不懂。”
And he says, look, you need to understand 2 things. Number 1,
他说：“我告诉你，你需要那个知道2个事情。第一个，
these people are not laughing at you, they're laughing with you.
我告诉你，他们不是在嘲笑你，而是他们是跟着你一起开怀大笑。
And number 2, because you've been a morale booster for the miners, we'll give you a promotion."
他说：“因为你你这个人就是让这些矿工呢很开心，笑得很开心。我要提升你的职位。”
And so this was quite an experience of how I learned English, profane, and how to not worry about when people kind of laugh with you.
然后呢，这个就是我后来学到，就说是人们讲这些英文呢，讲的就是嘲笑你的这个英文的当中呢，你也可以就是跟着他们开怀大笑，这种文化。
Before long, I met a beautiful lady.
那在我还没有就是遇到我的这个美好的这一位这个姐妹之前哈。
No, you have to do this really right.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this is the Chinese version of this little bit different. Yeah, 他说我翻译要翻得对那么我这个中国人的这个身材，中国人的身材可能跟美国人的身材又不太一样的。
But it's not just that she was beautiful on the outside.
但是她不单单是外表美丽，
She had a beautiful spirit, and she was a concertizing pianist.
她呢有是内心也是有个美好的品格，而且她是能够在演唱会呢演奏的一个美好的一个钢琴家。
She was teaching at the university piano.
她是在这个大学里面教钢琴。
And I was smart enough
那我够聪明的，
not to let her get away.
就是不懂得怎么个就是让她上钩。
So we tied the knot.
所以我们呢就把这个鞋带绑在一起。
And she has been my wonderful wife for the last 51 years.
我的美丽的妻子在那边51年，我们结婚51年了。
So we are moving to Loma Linda in Southern California to go to medical school.
所以后来我们就搬到这个罗马琳达这个加州罗马琳达，我去读这个医学院。
While I'm waiting to get in,
然后呢，当我进去之后，
I take 1 year of public health.
我就呢就是先学了1年的这个公共卫生。
And then the dean of the School of Public Health invites me to accompany him to a special speaking appointment that he had in Los Angeles.
那么呢，这个当时的这个公共卫生部门的这个系主任呢，他就邀请我呢到这个洛杉矶，因为他正好在洛杉矶要有一个演讲。
He had 1,000 people there in a 12-part series on health.
他有一个1000多个人，然后他有这个12个系列的演讲要讲关于这个健康。
He was a fascinating speaker.
他是一个非常好的一个讲员。
He had 3 doctorates behind his name.
你知道他有3个这个博士背景。
A physician, a nutritionist, and a pharmacologist.
他呢是医生也是这个营养这个学专家，他呢也是这个药剂师，3个。
And on the way home, he said to me,
然后他在回家路上，他跟我讲。
Now, Hans, I understand that you were into marketing and advertising in Germany. You were trained.
他说我知道说汉斯你是不是在德国好像受过训练，要做这个市场开发的这方面的这个生意方面的训练呢？
And at one time, you were trying to change the coffee drinking habits of Canadians.
他说你曾经在加拿大想要就是在那边改变人家这个喝咖啡的一种习惯，对不对？
And then he said, you know, when you are a physician, you basically deal with one-to-one relationships, one patient at a time, usually.
他说当你知道你是成为一个医生的时候，你跟这个医生跟这个病患之间，你是1对1的这种关系。
But he said, our diseases today, this is not the 1970s, our diseases that are emerging now are chronic diseases.
但是现在已经是这个1970年代之后，我告诉你，现在的这个时代的这个疾病呢，是变成一种叫做慢性病的，来侵蚀我们的。
Like heart disease and stroke and diabetes and obesity and hypertension.
比方说是这个心脏病，这个这个中风还有这个什么糖尿病，还有这个高胆固醇，还有就是那个体重过重这一些等等等等。
And as a physician, he said, I can tell you, we have no medical answers to those chronic diseases.
你知道吗？我们身为医生，我们对这些这个慢性疾病，其实我们是没有一个解救方法的。
Or we can make you more comfortable with medication, but it doesn't cure the disease. You'll be on this medication for the rest of your life.
我们呢，只能够用这些药物呢，帮助能够觉得缓和、舒服一点点，然后你一生都必须要继续靠这些药物。
And because of the emerging trend towards more and more chronic diseases,
因为这个现在这个时代就是变得是越来越厉害的这种慢性病会增加。
last year we started in the School of Public Health a doctorate in health science.
所以就是去年我们在这个罗马琳达的学校，我们就开始举办这个健康科学的这个博士课程。
It has an emphasis on nutrition and exercise and stress management, communication skills, and how to motivate people and to do things in groups.
所以好像就是我们有这个课程呢，是帮助人家说怎么个就是促进健康啦，这个跟人之间的沟通啦，这个压力啦，营养啦，这个运动，所有的这些全部都混在一起。
Would you be interested in possibly considering changing from medicine to health science?
那就是你有没有可能会觉得说，你想要就是改变从这个医学呢，改成就是这个健康科学？
So I said, I have to talk to Lily first.
我说我要先跟我的太太 Lily 讲。
Of
讲一下
course.
看看当然呢。
So when I come home, I said, you know, the dean pointed out that there's some new trends emerging in our society, and there's a new program aimed at reaching those lifestyle-related diseases.
那我就跟我的那个太太讲说，哎呀，你知道吗？这个我们学校这个健康部门的这个校长呢，这部分就告诉我说，我们现在有一个新的学习，因为很多人都得到更多的疾病，所以有这样的一个这个健康科学这样的一个新的领域。
And Lily asked,
这个 Lily 就问我，
are there any job openings?
那么有没有什么工作打开给这些读完书的人呢？
There's no job security. It's a brand new degree. It's a brand new concept.
他说，这个你学完这个学位之后，没有一定有这个工作的保障啊，因为这是一种新的领域啊。
And she said,
他说，
let's pray about this.
我们为这个事情祷告吧。
Let's talk to the dean once more together.
我们那个再一次跟我们两个一起跟这个健康卫生学院的这个校长呢，我们
And
来
I
讲看看。
signed on onto the program.
然后呢，我就签了这个名。
And you see, my career change now was very clear. No longer medicine to treat disease, but to promote health.
所以你可以看得清楚，说我的工作改变得很大，我不再是一个要学毕业之后呢做这个医生来治疗疾病，而是要来提倡健康的。
I enjoyed the program. I got my doctoral degree, and I was employed by the university in teaching, among other things, graduate students the new concepts of health promotion.
然后呢，就是我很满意，因为呢，我读完之后呢，我拿到博士之后呢，这个罗马琳达也这个聘请我之后呢，我就留在学校教书，教关于这个健康。
And then the students are asking me about a program called the Pritikin Longevity Center in Santa Barbara.
然后这个有学生就跟我讲说，在这个 Santa Barbara 那边的这个 Pritikin 人长寿中心长寿村。
And they said to me, haven't you seen all the advertisements for this program?
他说你有没有看过，好像这个整个这些好像这个这一个机构的这个广告啊。
They can cure high blood pressure, they can cure diabetes, they can cure heart disease. This is the place. I said, oh, no, this is a quack.
然后他们就说你这个地方可以好像帮人家就是逆转，好像这个高血压啦还有这个糖尿病啦，还有其他这些这些疾病都可以帮助他。我说哎呀，这些东西都是垃圾，没有用的。
This is not a doctor, this Nathan Pritikin. No. He's just an engineer, and he's just selling people on the idea that he can do something that nobody else can do.
然后我就说，哎呀，这些人写的这些，他们不是医生啦，他们这些人都是没有别人没有办法的，他是在做戏而已，作秀。
It's quackery, forget it.
这些东西不要去理这些，不要管了。
But you know, when you don't give graduate students some good answers, they are very persistent in coming back at you and said, have you really checked this out yourself?
但是呢，你知道吗？就是当这些那个学生是研究院的学生，我在教他们书呢，我如果没有给他们一个很好的答案的时候呢，他们会再继续来追问我，后来跟我他说，你有没有真的是确实的去检查过他们这一家这个老人中心所做的事情？
Could we turn the air conditioning on by any chance? I see all of you are waving your flags here.
我们想说那个可能冷气没有开好哈。
Yeah. I seem to have some hot flashes here. So when you don't give very good answers to graduate students, they come back at you and they say, have you really checked this out? You see, we all have our biases, and we hang on to our biases without sometimes really knowing whether our bias is correct.
你知道，就说是这些研究生呢，就来跟我讲这些事情的时候呢，你知道这些他们 有在追求学问的研究生呢，如果说我们不给他们满意的答案，他们会再继续来追问我们，而且他要我们就是不要带着一个偏见呢来看一个事情。
So I called Mr. Pritikin, the director of this longevity program.
所以我就为这个事情呢打电话给这个 Pritikin 这个长寿中心的这个主任打电话给他。
He said, "Why don't you come and see us and take a look at what we do here?"
他说：“你不妨你过来看一看，看一看我们所做的事情是什么。”
I drove 168 miles to Santa Barbara
所以我就开车子开了168英里呢到这个 Santa Barbara，
to meet this man.
就来跟这个人见面。
And then he introduced me to the patients. He had 58 patients there from all over the world.
你知道，我们就看一看，就是他们这个机构里面呢，有那个58位这个长者这个病人住在那个地方里面。
They came from New York, from Hong Kong, they came from Vancouver, they came from everywhere.
他们从这个纽约啦，从香港啦，从这个加拿大温哥华，从各个地方来。
Most of these people are fairly affluent people.
他们呢，很多人呢都是这个很善良的。
Some flew in with their personal private jets.
哦，对不起他们这些人就是还有钱的人他们还自己就是有私人的飞机飞过来
And when I talked to them, they said to me, "We have been to the best medical centers, to the best doctors. We've tried the best medications, the most surgeries, and it doesn't work. It gets worse and worse and worse."
所以他们就告诉我说，他们过去曾经在一些不同的医院呢，有最好的医生给他们开药，这些都是很多这些事情都没有办法能够帮助他们逆转。
But in this 26-day program,
但是在这个地方的26天的这个生活方式改良的这个计划里面，
where we only eat foods as grown,
我们那个只有吃一些食物是这个地上所这个生长的那种自然的鲜可口的新鲜的食物。
like fruits and vegetables and whole grains and legumes.
那些好像是这个蔬菜水果全麦的谷物，还有这个豆类。
Very simply prepared without all the sugar and the salt and the accoutrements, the fats and oils.
就说是那个他们烹饪的方式都很简单，没有什么太多这个糖啦、盐啦、这个油啦，这些都没有的。
And they said to me,
他们就告诉我说
"You know, we're pretty wealthy people, most of us here.
我们其实在这边的很多长辈呢，都是有钱的人。
We're used to some high-class foods like lobsters and, you know."
我们过去都吃一些就是所谓的一种高贵的食物，什么龙虾啦。
And this is plant-based, whole food.
但是这些是这边是这个草本植物为重要的这个蔬菜水果啦这些那个全麦的。
Lots of nutritional value, but no taste.
但是有很多很好的营养价值，但是口味上来说呢不好吃。
But then they said, but after about 2-3 weeks here, the taste is improving. They must have gotten a new chef.
但是他说那个2-3个礼拜之后呢，这个口味有改变了呢？难道是他们是有这个新的这个厨师在他们这边吗？
And they began to understand it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to make the lifestyle changes and to get used to the new taste. And once you have influenced your brain how to interpret the taste that's happening here, everything's going to be fine.
他说，其实事实上是因为当你吃了2-3个礼拜以内的这个自然的食品之后呢，你的这个整个这个味觉跟那个头脑之间的反应会改变，你会觉得说你吃了之后呢，其实是没有关系的。
And they told me stories that I would have never believed if I wouldn't have experienced them myself.
他会告诉我的一些故事是呢，我如果自己从来都不亲身去体经验的话呢，我会从来都不相信的。
Diabetics after 3-4 days on insulin had to have their insulin reduced because within 3 to 4 days the blood sugars will come down more and more and more and more, and many of these people were off medications within 4 weeks.
然后呢，就是他说，比方说那些有糖尿病的人呢，他们本来有打这个胰岛素的，那么在3-4天之后呢，胰岛素的数据的就是下降，最后就是可以不要靠这些药物。然后呢，这些有很多靠药物的这些人，在这个地方呢，3-4个星期之后呢，就可以不要再靠药物了。
They would eat as much as they could possibly get into your system, and yet they lost 2 pounds a week.
然后就是他们就是吃这些蔬菜水果吃的更多呢，他们每一个星期还继续不断的下降2磅的体重。
They were also, of course, getting into an exercise program, walking daily.
他们当然也就说是每一天都有这个运动，每一天都要去走路。
And in many cases where they had angina pain, chest pain, the chest began to become less and less after 2, 3, 4 weeks.
然后就是他们本来就是有这个心绞疼痛呢，就是2个到3个礼拜之内呢，他们就心绞就不再痛了。
because the blood viscosity, the thickness of the blood becomes much different. It becomes more fluid, and it can get through these narrowed arteries much easier, and so you no longer have the oxygen deficit experienced by your heart muscle.
因为呢，就说是你的这个血呢，就是变得是比较没那么厚啊，你的血变得是很轻，所以就是你这个血呢，血液这个流畅在你的血管里面的是变得是越来越加的这个顺畅，就你就不需要好像等到好像就是感觉到说好像你因为这个缺血呢，使你好像这个心绞会疼痛啊。
And people on blood pressure medications for at least 2 years, within the 4 weeks, 55% were off these medications and their blood pressures were normal.
然后就是过去2年来都服用这个高血压的这个药物的这些病人呢，在那边4个星期之后呢，他们有50%以上的人就是他们那个可以完全不要再依靠这个高血压这个药物。
I mean, it was like a miracle place.
对我来说，那个地方真的是一个奇迹的一个地方。
And then Mr. Pritikin said, would you have an interest in perhaps taking a look at moving over here and to become our research director and educational director for the program?
然后呢，就是那一边那个健康中心的主任就跟我讲说，他说你有没有兴趣来住在我们这边呢？然后成为我们这边研究机构研究这些老人的这个研究主任。
So I come home.
所以我就回到家。
Another big surprise, right?
对我来说是一个很大的、很惊讶的事情。
Lily, this is quite a place. I'm telling you, there's nothing like this in the world. The power of simple foods and exercise in modifying these chronic diseases, you wouldn't believe it. I've seen it.
然后我就跟我的太太莉莉讲说：“莉莉啊，你没办法能够相信，你看到这些人在这个地方呢，他们的疾病这样子的这个转变，我亲眼看见了。”
She said, "You have a good job at the university. You know, you have a job for life."
他说：“你在这个大学有一个很好的工作，你可以一生都在这边工作嘛。”
Why do you want to trade this for some outlandish idea kind of a program there that everybody is thinking is sort of a quackery place?
他说：“你为什么要去到一个这个不引人注目的，就是别人都认为好像是个没有用的、这个没有价值的这个地方？你要跑到那个地方去干什么？”
I said, "Lily, people just don't understand.
我告诉他说：“这个莉莉啊，
They have their biases.
人们是不明白，他们有这个偏见。
If they would spend a couple of weeks there, they would see for themselves the power of how the body is moving towards self-healing if you put the right ingredients into the system."
我告诉他说：“这个当人们都不明白，就是当我们把这个正确的东西放到身体里面的时候呢，你的身体就开始作用，开始有这个变化之后，你的身体就会带来这个医治。”
And she said, "I think you really want to do this, don't you?"
然后莉莉就看到我，就是我想你是不是真的想去这个地方？
It's so nice to have a person behind you when you do something novel.
你知道吗？当你觉得说你要做一些很珍贵的事情，你觉得说该去做的时候呢，有人在背后支持着你，是多么美好的一件事情。
And so I took on the job of being the new research director at the Pritikin Longevity Center, a man that looked at disease, chronic disease, from an engineering point of view, not through medical viewpoint.
所以呢，我就接受这个工作呢，到这个 Pritikin 这个长寿村去做这个研究人员从这个这个科学的这种那个工程的角度来看关于这个如何的预防疾病，而不是从医疗的角度来看。
As an engineer, he knew there must be a cause. If there's a cause, there must be an effect, and we need to find the formula, and we can solve the problem.
因为所谓的工程师呢，就是说你要看到有一个问题的时候呢，你要发现问题之后，要怎么个是解决这个问题，然后呢，你必须要列出这些解决的方法，这个就是工程师所做的事情。
No more just patching up.
不是只是说是把一个道路呢，就是好像就是随便敷衍了事的，就是涂上一层柏油而已。
We need to get to the root of the problem.
我们必须要把整个这个树根在里面这个问题呢给挖出来，
To the cause.
要把这个原因找出来，
And that's how people live
这使人们呢能够活得更好，
and eat and drink and exercise.
使人们能够吃的、喝的、运动的更好。
And so I joined this program, and now I've shifted my career from treating the disease as a physician to promoting health as a health promotion specialist, to becoming involved in reversing chronic disease, something novel, something new.
所以呢，我从一个就说是本来要做这个医生的，变成是好像提倡健康的，到从一个提倡要健康的人呢，到一个就是要怎么个逆转疾病的人。
I enjoyed myself tremendously. Every Monday morning, I would leave very early in the morning to drive my 168 miles to Santa Barbara, and every Thursday night, midnight, I would come back home.
所以呢，我这个星期一早上一大早呢，我会开车子开到这个 Santa Barbara， 然后呢，我星期四晚上呢就会开回到我的这个罗马尼亚的家。
I saw the power of lifestyle medicine in action.
我看到好像这个生活方式所改变的这个是一种医疗，这个就是一种那个医治。
Very consistently.
然后呢，这个是非常有这个持续不断的可以去做到的。
And the patients would come in from all over the world.
然后呢，这些人都是到从全世界不同地方过来的。
70 people at a time.
一次都能够接纳70个病人在那边。
95 people at a time.
一次也可以有95个病人。
125 people at a time.
125个病人。
Branch offices had to be established in different parts of the country.
然后他们的这个分的这个怎么讲啊？不是分公司哈，就是那个他们的这个分店一样的哈，就是这个支部呢，能够在全国各个不同的地方展开。
And the books Nathan Pritikin published were bestsellers. People wanted to have an answer to their chronic diseases. They didn't want any more medications. They wanted to have answers. And the answers were to be found in intelligent self-care.
然后呢，就是在很多的这些人呢，他们所我们在那边所做的研究调查，这些书呢都是销售的很好。然后很多的人呢，他们就想要找到答案，而不是说是依靠药物，是自己去改变饮食的方法呢，使自己的身体里头有这样的医治的功能。
However, I developed some second thoughts.
但是呢，我后来有想到第二个这个方式哈。
Having been there several years,
在那边几年之后，
I remembered my humble upbringing in Germany.
我想到就是我在那个德国的生长的方式。
This program was for the affluent who could afford to come for 4 weeks to a beautiful spa environment and learn these concepts. I needed to take care of everybody, not just the affluent.
然后我就想到说，因为这一些那个在这个Petkins 在这个地方的老人中心的地方呢，很多人他们是世界各国的有钱的人来这边要医治病的。我应该要把这个事情不单单只是给有钱人而已，应该要把这个事情教育给全世界不同的人。
I also wondered how long do these behavior changes last?
然后呢，我后来也想说，好像这些人他们所改变的这个生活方式呢，到底这个改变的行为能够帮助他们持续多久？
What happens when these people come home?
当他们回到家之後，他们会继续吗？
They're no longer in Santa Barbara in a protective environment.
他们已经回到家之后，已经没有住在这个同样一个就是保护他们这样的一种健康的地方了。
They face the same fridge.
他们呢会回到家呢，看到他们自己的家里的冰箱，
The same friends.
一样的朋友，
The same physicians who may not be open to these ideas.
一样的这个医生，但也许不一定赞成这种方式的一些医生。
And I began to realize that we needed to change the culture. We needed to transform the culture that would be supportive of these new concepts.
后来我就想到说，我们应该其实要改变的是整个这个文化，要把这样的一个观念呢教导给人。
I took a 2-year postdoctoral fellowship.
我就拿了2年的这个
then
博士后的这个学位。
I began to realize that I needed to do something on my own.
后来我就想到说，我应该要用自己的方式，要做更多的这个学习。
The telephone rings.
电话就打过来了。
Sid Kettner, my medical colleague, is on the phone.
那么呢，我的一个这个朋友呢，在这个电话的另外一边。
He said, Hans,
他说：“汉斯啊，
you know, I'm in a little town of Creston. We have 4,000 people, and I need to have you come and give the annual preventive medicine lecture for the town.
那么呢，他就打电话给我，他说我在这个城镇呢，然后就是我们这边有4000多个人想要听到这个信息，你必须要跟我你必须要来跟我们讲解关于这个健康。”
I said, what's the purpose? What do you want to accomplish?
然后我问他说，你要达到的目的是什么呢？
Well, I want to have a healthier population.
我希望能够有好像这个更健康的人口
And so I said, you plan to do this by giving a one-time lecture once a year?
我就问他说，你想就是改变这些居民的健康生活，你是想要1年做1次吗？
I said, I don't think that I want to come.
我就告诉他说，我不一定想去。
You're not going to come?
你不要来啊！
You're putting our friendship on the line.
啊，你跟我们之间的友谊，你都不想要买这个账。
I said, "Sid, look, I have a wife, I have 2 children. I possibly couldn't come up to Canada. It just doesn't fit in."
我就告诉他说：“哎呀，我有太太，我有孩子，我现在这个时候接应你的邀请，答应你的邀请到这个加拿大这么远的地方，我真的可能不太想去做这个事情。”
And besides, Sid, I think all I will do is upset people in your town because with one lecture, you upset some people say, "Yeah, that's exactly right," and others say, "No. In one lecture, you create more turmoil than you do good. I cannot come."
我告诉他说，好像而且呢，就算是你邀请我去，我只讲一堂课的，你可能会造成一些人不舒服。有一部分的人讲说，哎呀，你讲的是对的，有一部分人赞成，但是总而言之，全部结果呢，会让很多人不欢而散。
I said, "Sid, if you really want to make this a healthier town, you have to change the habits of the people."
我告诉他说，我的朋友 Sid， 你如果真的想让我去，我告诉你，我们应该做的事情是要改变居民的这个整个生活方式，要改变。
Well, how do you change the habits of people?
你怎么个改变人的生活方式啊？
Well, I said it's like you are right-handed and you use your toothbrush with your right hand and you brush your teeth regularly with your right hand, and as of tomorrow, I want you to do it with your left hand. Guess what happens? You can't even find your mouth. It's so uncomfortable.
我告诉他说，就好像是有时候你通常就用右手刷牙，那明天开始我叫你用左手刷牙，你用左手刷的时候呢，你连你的嘴巴在哪里你都找不到。
But I said, if you do it for 21 days, 3 times a day,
但是我告诉你，如果说你做了21天，也就是说是一个星期做了3天的话，
shifting from right hand to left hand,
那如果说你从右手呢转成左手，
you become ambidextrous. You can use either hand.
你可能会训练之后呢，你2个手都可以用的。
That's how you change habits.
那你就是要改变人家的这个生活方式。
That's what I learned at the Longevity Center, where people come for 26 days.
我就是在这个Perkin 那边所学到的，因为人家来这边参加26天。
And then there was silence on the phone.
然后这个人在电话的另外一边，他就安静了。
I knew I had lost him.
我说我大概就说是失去跟他对话的机会了。
Our friendship was cut.
我想我们再也不是朋友了。
And then he said,
他说
"So are you coming for 21 days
但是他
to
就
change the habits?"
他就接下来就讲这句话：难道你愿意来21天来改变我们的生活方式吗？
I said, "I have a wife. I have kids.
我有太太，我有孩子啊。
Why don't you talk to Lily?"
你跟我的太太 Lily 讲看看。
I get off the phone. I said, "Lily, I have another surprise.
我跟 Lily 讲说 ，Lily 啊，我有另外一个就是让你惊讶的事情。
I want to go to Canada
我要去加拿大
for 2 months
2个月。
because it's actually a 4-week program.
事实上，你说21天，其实是4个星期的节目。
And I have to go there a month earlier to set up everything for the program.
而且不单单只是说是去那边4个星期，我必须要去提早1个月去呢，帮忙把事前的准备工作都做好。
To enroll the people, and then I have to stay another 4 weeks to collect all the data and to mop up.
然后就说是我要花4个星期的时间，把这些要参加的人的这个资料都准备好之后呢，而且还要做很多跟进的工作。
I prepared my slides for a 4-week program, and 6 months later, I was on my way to the small town of Creston in British Columbia in Canada.
然后我准备了这些我要讲的这些幻灯片之后呢，6个月之后，半年之后呢，我就到达这个加拿大这个 Crest。
And 400 people were waiting for me. They had enrolled in the program because my physician friend had really beat the drums because he wanted to make sure that I believed him, that he could do what he had promised me he could do.
然后呢，就是我到了加拿大这边之后呢，我就发现有400个人来参加这个节目呢。然后我的这个朋友，这个医生的朋友，他真的是说服他们这些人来参加。
We took all the surveys of the people, their history. We had some blood tests. We measured their weight.
有这些人的他们的过去的他们的健康的这个医疗历史，他们的好像这个身体的体重，他们的血压这些所有的这些记录。
We did it before the program and after the 4-week program had come to an end.
然后就是我们在他们开始之前呢，就准备好4个礼拜，结束之后呢，也做了4个礼拜的跟进工作。
And then we compared the results.
然后我们就是准备了比较这些不同的结果。
And they were almost as good as the results from the residential center in Santa Barbara.
然后他们的这个结果呢，跟那个我过去在Santa Barbara所做的这个健康的结果呢，是一样，几乎一样好的。
People begin to change once they understand that it makes sense. It's intellectually right on target.
你知道，当人们就是只觉得说这些做的事情是合理的，该做的事情，他们改变了观念之后呢，他们就开始会愿意去做了。
But you also have to help them to develop the skills. How do I prepare these foods? How do I get into an exercise program? What are the right steps to take? You have to do it in a caring, supportive environment where people begin to understand this is not about you as a healer. It's about you. We are here to serve you.
然后呢，就说是那个很多人就是来参加之后呢，他们逐渐的明白说，不是说是我这个人在这边医治你，而是你个人回到家之后呢，你能够学习这些方法之后呢，你成为医治自己的人。
And so I began to talk to the restaurants in Keston. We need to have some healthy food here.
所以我就开始跟那边的这些那个餐厅讲说，你们可能需要有一些健康的饮食。
I talked to the markets.
我跟那些那个市场的人讲。
Can you reduce the prices for fresh produce?
你可不可以就是把那些新鲜的蔬菜水果的这些价格给它下降
？And they became very enthusiastic in support of this kind of a concept.
然后呢，他们就变得好像就是非常的支持这一些观念哈。
This was 1988.
这个是1988年。
33 years later, it's still running the program.
然后呢，就是之后呢，我就开始有这些不同的变化。
It's a healthier town because people have been able to understand that it was important to change their habits.
然后那个城镇啊，变得是一个非常健康的一个城镇，因为人们开始改变了他们的一些观念。
This was door number 5. Now comes door number 6.
这个是我刚刚讲是上帝给我开的第五个门哈。这个我们现在讲的是第6大门。
We call it the CHIP program.
我们把这个计划呢叫做是 CHIP。A
4-week program with 35 hours of education.
4个星期，然后35个小时的这样的一个这个课程。
And CHIP stands for Complete Health Improvement Program. CHIP.
这个 CHIP 就说是完全能够改变健康的促进健康的这样的一种计划。
And the word travels to the neighboring town.
然后呢，这个城市我们就好像从不同的城市到另外一个不同的城市。
And 1,500 people sign up for my CHIP program.
然后呢，就是有1500个人也来参加我的这个讲座。
And then it travels to another neighboring town, Kelowna, and 2,000 people sign up 2 times in a row, 4,000 people.
然后就是在加拿大呢，从这个城市再到附近邻近的一个是从400个人到1500个人，1500个人到2000多个人。
And then we run the program in Ottawa, the capital of Canada, to reach out to the parliamentarians, to the policymakers, because this is the answer to healthcare.
然后呢，就是我们到这个加拿大的首都渥太华，然后在那边呢有这个加拿大的这些高级的这些国家的这些政府这些领导人员，因为他们这些人需要知道这个健康。
Empower people, educate people, and do it lovingly.
然后就说用爱的方式要关心别人，把这个教育呢知识传授给人。
Boy, these were great days.
我们有很好的这个时间。
And then I'm at home, and the phone rings, and a man calls me up, and he said, "My name is Ramesh Pai."
然后呢，就是我呢，就是回到我的罗马尼亚家之后呢，有人打电话给我，他说我的名字叫做 Ramesh Pai。
I'm from India, and I need to see you.
我是从印度来的，我要来见你啊。
I have heart disease. I had bypass surgery.
我有这个心脏病，我有这个搭桥手术。
And the bypass has closed up again after 2 years.
然后这个搭桥手术呢，2年之后呢，心脏又让我这个血管关闭了。
I'm traveling with a medical team around the world to look for answers to my heart disease.
我跟着这些医疗队伍呢旅行呢，来寻找能够解救我的心脏病的答案。
We went to Japan, we went to Germany, we went to England, and we came and ended up in Santa Barbara in California.
然后呢，我跟着这些医疗团队呢，从印度一直到这个日本，到这个德国，到这个其他的不同的国家，最后呢，我们到达这个 Santa Barbara。
And we heard the lectures of Mr. Pritikin.
然后我们就听到这个 Pritikin 他在那边所讲的这个讲座。
And we invited him to come to Bangalore in India
我邀请他们来到这个印度的 Bangalore，
to help me and my friends to turn this disease around.
就是来帮助我跟我的朋友们呢，来逆转我们的疾病。
And he said, I really can't leave my clinic alone here, but Dr. Deal, he may be available. Why don't you call him up in Loma Linda?
那所以这个在 Pritikin 的这个医生就说是我没办法能够离开这个地方，你也许你去找这个罗马琳达的这个戴汉斯医生。
And so this man now tells me that he would like to run something like a chip program that he has heard about.
然后呢，这个人就跟我讲说，他很想要就是来试试看，来举办这个 CHIP program。
And I asked him, how many people do you think you could enroll?
然后我就问他说，你想说你大概能够召集多少个人来做？
About 1,000 people.
他说差不多1000个人吧。
I need to have blood tests done for these 1,000 people. I need to have an automatic blood analyzer. Where do I find this in India? Does anybody have that? And he said,
我呢就问他说，你知不知道说在印度我们可以就是有对这个1000个人做这个把抽血的检查，然后要有人去做这个化验师呢，把这个血呢来阅读，有办法吗？他说
you'll be glad to know that we own the largest hospital in Bangalore, which then was 5 million people.
我告诉他说，他告诉我说呢，我在印度呢，我有经营这个医院呢，是500万人口的。
And in our hospital, we just installed a brand new Kodak automatic blood analyzer.
然后就是我们在医院才刚刚把这个抽血的这个机器呢，给就是买进去。
And the director of the laboratory that will run this automated machinery just came back from America to be trained at the Kodak factory.
然后就是在这边研究是这个在那个我的医院那边呢，就是有派人来这个美国来学习怎么个做这个血的部分的化验的又回去了。
I said, sir, I'm just curious, how would you get these 1,000 people to come into this program?
我就问他说，我只是好奇的想知道你要怎么个能够让1000个人呢能够来参加这个聚会。
And he said, well, we'll go to the Rotary clubs.
他说我会去这个福伦社，就是 Rotary Club。
We have 52 Rotary clubs in Bangalore alone.
我们在那个印度的 Bangalore 这个地区呢，就有52个福伦社的分部。
And the members are usually business people.
这些人来参加的呢，都是那些生意人。
The upskilled people. You want to have multipliers of these concepts. You want to train them, and then they can tell their friends.
你要就是去教这些人的，然后呢，他们这些人也会再回去教他们的这些朋友。
How would I go to 52 Rotary clubs? They only meet once a week. He said, don't worry.
他是我就说呢，我要怎么个能够好像就是能够去52个福伦社拜访？我在那边只有1个星期的事情。他说不用担心。
You may not know this, but I'm the president of Rotary for all of India.
他说你也许不知道，但是我呢是整个印度的福伦社全部的总社的社长。
When I tell them that we have a meeting at 10 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, they all will be there because I'm the president of Rotary of India.
他告诉我说，只要我告诉他说我们的聚会的时间是10点还是12点还是2点，不管是几点的，他们都会来，因为我是印度的福伦社的总社长。
I said, I need to have some physicians to help me too.
我告诉他说，我还需要有一些这个医生来帮忙。
Where would I find some physicians to help me?
我要怎么能够去找一些医生来帮忙呢？
He said, you may not know this,
他说也许你不知道，
but we own the largest medical school privately owned in India.
他说我在印度呢，我们有一个学校是我经营的，我们那个学校是那个医学院，是私立大学的医学院，是我自己经营的。
And my cousin is the dean of the medical school. How many doctors do you need?
他说我的表哥我还是表弟呢，在那个学校是学校的校长，你有多少医生你需要的？
Sir, I also need some nurses to do the blood pressures.
我也需要有一些护士来量这个血压的。
He said, "Oh, we have a very good relationship with the Catholic hospital here in town, and they have a very large nursing school. And these nurses, these students in the last year would be glad to be part of your dynamic program."
那他说我们跟这个城里面的好像这个天主教的这个医学院呢是一个好的朋友，他们那边有很多这些护士的医生，他们都很会愿意的来帮我们跟我们一起合作。
But sir, I also need to have an Indian a cookbook with the way that I teach people. Where do I find a dietitian to help me in making these my recipes to fit into the Indian culture?
我告诉他说，我也需要有一些好像这个印度的，好像这种烹饪，好像这个书哈，就是教导人家怎么个烹饪的这样的这个食品的书。因为呢，我的这个营养的这个方式呢，要透过你们的这个印度的文化，看他们怎么适合用吃什么样的这个印度的食物呢，能够用健康的方式。
And he said, we run also a school of dietetics, and I can ask the chair lady to write this cookbook over the next 2 or 3 weeks. Would that be okay?
他就说呢，我这边也有这个好像那个烹饪学校啊，我可以要求我们那边烹饪学校呢，马上就把这样的一本健康的食品的书写出来啊，然后就是马上就是2、3个星期之内把它写出来，可不可以？
God opened all the doors.
上帝呢，打开所有的门。
He said, "We'll take care of everything financially. You don't have to worry about a thing. Just come and be with us."
那他们就说，好像那个所有的这个我们这个财政方面的事情呢，你都不用担心，我们都会，好像有这个有钱，你都不用担心，你就来吧。
1,500 people signed on to the program.
1500多个人报名参加他们那边的这个聚会。
4 weeks, every night, 4 nights a week.
一个星期4个晚上。
These people would bring their chefs, their personal chefs, into the program.
他们这些参加的学员，他们还把自己的私人的厨师都一起带来参加，来听我们的讲课。
And when they enrolled in the program, they always had their shirts wide open like this.
然后当他们就是参加他们的这个来讲座的时候呢，他们都把自己的衬衫这样打开。
They wanted to show off their tattoo.
他们想把他们的这个纹身秀给我们看。
Because with that tattoo, you automatically knew that they were millionaires in terms of their currency.
意思就是说，他们的这个纹身呢，就是表示他们是这个百万富翁他们是有这个身价的人
The majority of these people coming to the program all had bypass surgery. That was their tattoo.
你知道吗？我告诉你，事实上他们的这个这个纹身他们的纹身就是他们这个有心脏被开刀过的那种手术之后的痕迹就是有搭桥手术的心脏搭桥手术。
They had been to America. They had the $100,000 surgery done, and nobody told them unless you make changes, they'll close up again.
他们其实呢，就是花了钱来美国，做了这个10万块钱美金的这个手术，但是呢，没有人告诉他们说，你如果不改变你的生活方式，你的这个心脏又要再一次血管又要再一次被封闭起来，你又要再做另外一个搭桥手术，没有人告诉他们。
40% of these grafted vessels taken from the leg and transferred here, 40% of them are closed up again within less than 2 years.
你知道这个40%的人，他们的手术是哪里呢？就是他那个血管是从脚这边抽过来的，就换到这边。但是这些人2年之后呢，心脏的血管又会再一次的被封闭起来。
It was an exciting time to seeing these motivated people. They were wealthy and they wanted to live.
当时呢，真的是让人家很兴奋，说好像说是这些这个有钱的人呢，他们真的是要来参加这个课呢，他们希望能够改变他们的这个生活。
And they would do anything that was needed to do.
他们愿意做任何的事情来付出这个代价。
At the graduation time, the Minister of Health, just retired of India, made the acknowledgement speech after my series was over.
然后就是当这个整个这个好像这个学员他们要结束，他们要毕业典礼的时候呢，印度的这个印度政府的这个卫生部门的卫生部长也都来，就是做这个感谢对我的这个表达对我的谢意。
Yeah, you have to understand that most of these people were Hindus.
你知道这些人呢，他们大部分的人都是信印度教的。
And strict Hindus.
而且他们是这个是很遵守、很忠于他们的印度教的。
Don't use animal products.
Don't use what?
Animal products.
他们这些印度教的人，他们是不吃动物的。
And this retired minister of health said, "Isn't it amazing that an American has to come to India and teach us Hindus how we should be living?"
他说他们觉得说很惊讶，说是我们这些信奉印度教的人，居然会邀请一个美国人来教导我们信印度教的人是怎么个过的，要怎么个过一个生活才是正确的、健康的生活。
He takes us back to our roots.
他呢，帮我们就是提醒我们的健康的这个根本应该是怎么样的。
That we have left behind in response to the Western influences.
因为我们都已经忘记了我们这个印度人原本的这个根本的这个健康的理念呢，而去受到这些西方的国家文明的这些影响。
4 years later, my wife and I went back to India to do another large program there in Bangalore.
到这个4年之后呢，我跟我太太又再度的回到这个印度的 Bangalore 来举办另外一场讲座。
And that program is still running in Bangalore.
然后到今天呢，我们所讲的这些讲座呢，这个 Bangalore 这个地方呢还在实行。
Now I come to door number 7.
然后呢，我现在就是来到这个我的第7个门。
I'm at home. The phone rings, Kalamazoo, Michigan, and the man says, "We are calling from the hospital here. We would like to invite you to come and run a trip program in our town."
然后呢，我在家里呢，我有接到一个电话，是从这个密西根的卡拉马祖有人打电话来说，我们在医院呢，希望你能够来这边教导我们这个事情。
And it was about that time when my wife approached me and said,
那个时候呢，我的太太莉莉来跟我讲说，
and the way she came to me, I knew it was serious.
我觉得说她来跟我讲的话的时候，这个应该是很严肃的一个场面。
And she said, "We need to sit down."
她说我们应该要坐下来谈了。
And then she said,
她说
"Do you realize you have a lonely lover at home?"
你知不知道说你在家里有一个很寂寞的一个伴侣在家里
？Do you know you have 2 children that are fatherless?
你知不知道你有2个孩子是没有父亲的
Do you know that you're traveling around the world and you're saving everybody's life and you forget your own family?
你知不知道就是你整个就是一生都在到处去旅行呢，你拯救别人的这个生命，你却是没有就是就是怎么讲，就是没有救自己的孩子、自己家庭的生命
It was just a dagger going through my heart.
当时那个讲的话呢，真的是像是好像一把刀呢刺进去我的心脏。
I love this girl.
我爱这个女士。
I don't want anything to happen to our relationship.
我不想要就是做任何事情来就是搞坏我们之间的婚姻
I said, "Yeah, I understand."
那我明白。
I didn't fully understand it before, but now I get it.
我过去没有明白，我现在明白了。
Honey, just one more program in Kalamazoo, and then I'm going to come home.
他说我只要再做一次这个演讲在那个密西根的卡拉马祖就好了，我就
No
回
more
家了，
lonely lover.
再也不会有这个寂寞的这个爱人，
No more fatherless children.
再也不会有这个没有父亲的这个孩子。
I went to Kalamazoo.
那我就去这个卡拉马祖，
I had 1,000 people there,
我教导1000个人，
divided into 3 different programs, 1, 2, 3.
我在那边就是弄成3个不同的这个 program。
And after the first program, I got this brilliant idea.
然后当我教完第1次的这个 program 之后，我就想到一个事情。
I looked through the yellow pages. Do you remember those kind of things from
我过
years
去那
ago?
个就是我们有这个黄页就是电话簿，
And I looked up videography, video studios.
我就看一下有哪些是做那个录影。
I called
我就打电话给他们。
and I said, "Sir, my name is Hans Dio. I am looking for a studio that can film some of my lectures that I'm going to do."
我就打电话给他们，我说我的名字叫戴汉斯，我需要有人来就是帮我们录影我们所做的这个节目。
And the man said, "Are you Dr. Hans Dio that is written up in the newspapers about this project at the church, at the hospital there?"
然后就是他在电话里面就跟我讲说，你就是那个戴汉斯这个博士，然后就是我们在报上看到你在这边在这个医院里面做这个讲座的。
Yeah, I said, "That's right." And then he said, "Well, how many cameras do you need?"
然后就说对，我就说告诉他我就是，然后他问我说你需要多少个这个摄影机？
I didn't have a clue.
我不知道。
Well, he said, "You need obviously one for the slides, one for the audience, and one yourself. Don't you need 3 cameras at least?"
他说至少你要3个，有一个是摄影机是为了这个文字，有一个摄影机是对着你，有一个摄影机是对着这些观众。
And will we do the post-production?
然后呢，然后就是当我们之后呢，还要要编辑。
I didn't have a clue. I was a total greenhorn in this field.
我当时呢，在这个整个这个教学这个媒体教学范围呢，是一种就属于嫩草，我完全不懂。
And they said, "Why don't you call us back tomorrow morning? We probably have an answer for you what it would cost."
然后他就说啊，你明天打电话给我，我们可以告诉你说到底大概要花多少钱。
As a wise husband, I called Lily that night. I said, Lily,
我就要有一个这个，我是一个聪明的丈夫，我就打电话给我的太太，我说 Lily 啊，
I'm working on a solution of not traveling quite as much and being more at home.
我就说呢，我现在在想办法的，就是我可以不要就是花那么多时间去旅行，然后就可以在家里。
And she said, that's good.
他说很好啊。
And then I told her about this studio.
我就告诉他说这个摄影器材公司。
And she said, how many studios have you called?
他说你打电话给几家摄影公司啊？
I said, as a businessman, you should have at least 3 bids, shouldn't you?
你做生意的人，你至少要打电话给3家嘛，对不对？
So I said, yeah, you're right. So the next morning when I have a discussion with this studio, I said to them, why should I work with you as a studio and not someone else? Tell me what your references are.
然后呢，我就问这一家这个打电话给我的这个摄影器材公司，我就想说，我为什么要能够跟你们合作呢？有什么别人可以推荐你们说你们是好的质量好的公司？
And they said,
他们说
we are the official videographers of Bob Hope.
他们就说我们是那个以前给这个美国的喜剧演员、喜剧泰斗保罗·侯伯的这个摄影师。
Now you know who Bob Hope is, right?
你们都知道
He
这
was
个
the comedian. He was the entertainer of the military troops around the globe. Bob Hope was it. And he said, we have an exclusive contract. We do everything that Bob Hope does. We videotape everything.
他就说我们是这个以前那个 Bob Hope 跟我们签约来帮他做这个录影摄像的工作的哈。我们有跟他有签约，我们做任何他要我们所做的事情。
Do you need any more references?
但是我们说你还需不需要有别人的好像这个推荐？
And then they said, we also talked about the prices last night, my partner and I, and we are happy to really give you a big, big discount to what we usually charge because we believe in your mission.
然后呢，他们就说我昨天跟我的老板商量这个事情呢，关于要给你的这个价钱是多少呢？那么我们相信你做的这个事情是一种就是很正确的一个这个工作呢，因此我们愿意赞助你，我们会给你一个很低的价钱。
Yes, I found the solution.
我就是找到这个解决的方法了。
I come home and she's happy.
我回到家呢，我太太就很
The kids
高
are
兴
happy.
我的孩子也高
I'm
兴，
happy.
我也高兴。
And then the phone rings again, this time from Chicago, Rockford, Illinois.
然后呢，这个后来电话又打来了，这一次是这个芝加哥的这个洛克福特。
We heard about your program in Kalamazoo. We would like you to come to Rockford. We will have 1,000 people for you. We would love to have you come and make this the healthiest city in the Midwest.
然后他们这个芝加哥那边就说，我们听到你在这个密西根卡拉马苏的这个节目，我们也很喜欢你，我们很希望你能够来芝加哥，在我们这个美国中西部来使我们这边变成一个健康的城市，希望你能够来。
We have an unlimited budget.
那么呢，他说我们有一个没有限度的一个这个怎么讲，就是财务就是我们的好像这个我们有很多的这个钱呢，可以资助你，无限的。
But how do I get this across to Lily?
但我要怎么个把这个事情跟我的太太讲？
I said, Lily, everything is on film now.
但我告诉那个丽丽说，每一个事情我们都已经是把这个摄影呢都已经拍好了。
But how do we know that the film is as effective as when I do it in person?
我不晓得说，好像这个他们看这个录影呢比较有这个效率呢，还是说人来参加呢更有效率？
Lily had a background in statistics and she understood those kind of research aspects.
那么呢，我的太太丽丽呢，她有一些这一方面的这些数据，她知道说好像什么样子做事情呢会有更有效率。
I said, Lily, and I went on my knees and I said, Lily, just one more project. I need to go to Rockford. Lily, just one more. I have to check out whether the film program, I'm going to run it with film, and then the other group, I will run it personally. We need to compare the results and see if it's viable.
然后呢，我就跟丽丽讲说，我真的是跪在这个她的面前讲说，让我再去看一看。我是希望能够有一组的人呢，他们是看我的录影带教学的；有一组的人我是人亲自去的。我们要看一看那个结果到底是有什么不同，是不是差不多一样。
On my knees, she did this.
然后她就说：“起来吧，起来吧。”
She understood.
她知道。
We went to Rockford. We had 3,000 people enrolled in the program there.
我们去那个芝加哥那边的洛克福特，我们有3000个人 参加这个健康讲座。
We had some people run it as a film program, and then I ran some program personally.
有一部分的人呢，他们是看我教学的录影带；有一部分的人是我自己亲自教他们。
And the clinical outcome was the same.
然后就是他们的这个检查出来的结果呢是一样的。
This opened up the CHIP program as a program that could be taught by films by helping facilitators to run the program.
他们的这个结果，他们所验出来的结果是一样的，所以证明说好像他们看这个电视录影的教学，还有就是我人亲自去教导他们的结果呢是一样的。
We had 27 restaurants in Rockford that were offering CHIP menus, CHIP approved by our program.
我们在那个洛克福的这个城市有27间的这个餐厅呢，他们愿意有一个这个我们的健康讲座所改变的 CHIP 这样的这个健康讲座所开的这个菜单啊。
We had stores competing for our favor because we would send these people to the stores and we said, get those fresh produce, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, right?
然后呢，我们就告诉这些来参加的学员说，你们去这些不同的这些店里面呢买这些水果蔬菜，是等于就是帮助他们。
And after a while, I went to one of the big general managers of one of the big stores.
然后之后呢，我就到一个这个超市的这个经理那边去跟他讲。
I said, I am the culprit. I am the one that has probably depressed your sale of animal products, meats and sausages and cheese.
我就告诉他说，我呢也许会让你的好像这个肉啦，或者是这个起司啦这些东西卖得不好。
And I wanted to apologize to you.
我必须要在这个事情上跟你道歉。
It's for the health of the people.
这个是为了人们的健康。
And he said, tell me, what else can we do for you? Because you have given us more profitability this year than any other time because we have never sold so many raspberries and blackberries and fresh fruits and vegetables because this is where our profit and our losses are.
他们就说其实你帮助了我们更多，因为呢，我们有更多的人来跟我们买红莓这个草莓、蓝莓，还有是其他的这些很好的这些水果，因为这些都是我们赚钱赚的最多的。
These are perishable foods.
因为这些东西很容易坏的水果。
If the strawberries don't get taken within 2-3 days, we have to throw them away.
因为这个草莓呢，如果说2-3天之内不卖出去的话呢，就要丢掉的。
We had big turnovers because these people all wanted to have fresh fruits and vegetables and whole grains, all the things that you teach them to get.
因为这一些人，他们经常就是来我们这边买呢，他们要最新鲜的这些草莓，他们马上就要这些草莓。
One even had rearranged the store in such a way that when you come in, first you face all the fresh fruits.
我们把整个这个好像这个超市的那个门口的摆的都改了，因为让他们一进来超市就可以看到这些新鲜的水果蔬菜。
And now I am homebound.
我知道说我现在是回到家里来了。
Taking care of my Lily.
就是我们花时间就是照顾我的太太。
And our 2 children.
还有我的2个孩子。
And the program is running around the world on videos.
然后所有的这些节目呢，都是在整个全世界都是在那个录影他们都可以看的。
And people that I have been trained to run these programs.
然后就是我有训练的这些人。
And now comes to the last door.
然后这个是我们讲说上帝所开的最后一道门。
The phone rings, and this time it's a phone call from Australia.
电话又响了，然后这一次呢是从这个澳大利亚、澳洲。
It's the president and CEO of one of the largest corporations in Australia.
这个就是在澳洲呢一个非常大的一家这个公司它这个企业。
They said, we are the sanitarium company.
他说我们是一家这个疗养院公司。
Do you remember sanitarium in Battle Creek?
你还记不记得这个密西根州赞西市的这个疗养院
？Who started sanitarium food company in Australia? Ellen G. White when she was out there for several years.
谁开始这个疗养院的工作呢？这个上帝把这个意向给这个华亚伦师母。
And they said, we have heard that there are 52 places in New Zealand that are running the CHIP program very successfully.
他们说，我们听到说，其实在那个纽西兰有52个地方呢，他们在办这个 CHIP program， 而且办得很成功。
We are a company that is interested in seeking out a special license so that we can run the CHIP program in Australia for you.
他说我们在这个澳洲呢，我们希望能够有这样的一个合法的执照呢，我们就能够在澳洲呢帮你举办好这个 CHIP program。
And they said,
他们说
we noticed that you had this baby for 25 years.
你也许有这个25年的这个方面的经验。
The baby is the CHIP program.
我所生出来这个 baby 呢，就是这个 CHIP program。
And we noticed that you're using videos that have been made 10, 11 years ago.
那他说那个我们知道说你过去用的这个录影带是11年前拍的。
And we noticed the audience shots show women with some old-fashioned hairstyles.
因为我们看到好像你这个录影带里面好像这些女士她们所穿的衣服打扮呢是比较旧的那种像样子。
Would you be interested in going beyond just licensing the program to us? We'd be glad to redo it and turn that little baby, 25 years old, into some well-clothed adult.
然后我们就想说，让你好像就是你过去所开的这个这个健康讲座这个内容呢，来这边就是重新这个变成一个更新的当初你20多年前所这个生的这个这个健康讲座呢，现在变成是一个大人一样的样式呢，变成一个新的样式出来。
They came to our office in Loma,
他们就来到这个罗马琳达，
we began to negotiate.
我们就花时间就是讲这个内容，
Ultimately, we signed the contracts,
然后我们就是签了合约，
and the sanitarium company acquired the CHIP program.
然后这家疗养院公司呢，他就买下了这个 CHIP 这个健康讲座。
And it was about that time when Lily also had asked me, she said, by the way, do you have a pension plan?
然后当时呢，我太太丽丽就问我说：“你有没有一个退休的计划？”
When you're not employed, you are an independent contractor, you're your own boss. You usually have to squirrel some money aside for the rainy day. And so she asked me, do you have some special funds for retirement age for us?
他就问我，就说好像我有没有一个什么退休的计划，有没有存一部分的钱？
I said, well, Lily, you know that we put everything into this kind of a ministry.
我知道，你知道说我们把所有的这个钱都花在这些这个教导人这个活出更健康的这些内容。
Once we signed the contract,
当我们跟这个澳洲的公司把这个合约签好之后，
and the transactions had taken place,
然后就是他们就是把这个钱送过来之后，
Lily never asked me that question again.
他呢就是再也没有问我，就是我们有没有退休的这个计划这个钱。
She knew she was all right.
他知道说他已经是没问题了，
We were all right.
我们都已经很
As a
好。
matter of fact, the company also signed me on for a 5-year consultant contract.
然后事实上这个公司呢，他还继续给我们签下合约，说让我成为这个公司的一个顾问啊。
So, 9 doors that God opened in some rather miraculous way.
所以这个上帝为我们开的门呢，开的9道门呢，好像是一个非常神机有这个奇妙的一个带领方式啊。
And God calls all of us
上帝呼召我们每一个人，
to live lives of significance in serving others.
让我们就是活出一个有意义的要的一个人生，使我们能够服务别人。
He calls all of us to be channels.
他让我们就是每一个人都成为就是能够被他使用的一个器皿，
To become doors for Him,
使我们能够活出上帝的话语的人，
to be a blessing to others.
使我们能够成为就是别人的这个祝福的前缘。
So we're really, really excited that we can have a special program starting tomorrow morning when we have about 118 people signed up for the blood test. Be here.
所以我们很高兴说，知道说明天会有这个118个人愿意来就是参加这个抽血啊。
Don't eat anything or drink anything but water for at least 10, 12 hours for the blood test.
就说是在你这个做量血的检查之前呢，差不多11到12个小时呢，就是不要吃任何东西。
Our project manager has everything arranged very, very well.
我们的这个经营这一次这个健康讲座的经营人呢，这个把这个事情都安排得很好啊。
It will probably take about an hour for you to get through the program.
也许你差不多明天早上来之后呢，差不多会有1个小时左右的时间，会这个做这个这个抽血的时
We'll
间。
have a breakfast for you.
我们会准备好这个早餐给您
We're。looking forward to a 5-week program which will be the essence of CHIP.
然后就是你差不多会有这个5个星期的左右呢，这个是跟 CHIP 是类似的一样的这个教导。
And again, the God we serve
然后
assures us
我们所服侍的这个上帝呢，他给我们这样的一个保障。
For I know what I'm doing.
我知道我所怀的意念，我对你们所怀的意念是什么。
I have it all planned out for you.
我把一切的事情都计划好给你了。
Plans to take care of you.
我的计划呢，就是要这个眷顾你的。
And plans to give you a future you hope for.
我要寄给你的，这样你的这个是你们幕后有盼望的这个旨意，这样的一个计划意念。
Just like the prodigal father that we talked about the other day.
就好像是这个前几天我们所讲，上个星期我们所讲的这个浪费这个钱财的这个父亲。
From my perspective, God is trustworthy.
对我来说呢，上帝呢真的是一个能够信靠的人。
I have it all planned out for you.
上帝说：“我把一切事情都计划好给你。”
Let us rejoice.
让我们能够在这个事情上呢得到上帝所赐给我们的喜乐。
And someday that last door will open.
然后呢，有一天，上帝为我们开的最后一道门就会打开。
And take us from here to eternity.
他会把最后一道门呢从这个地方打开，让我们能够进到他的永恒的国度。
Dear Father in heaven, we pause
亲爱的天父上帝，我们在这边短暂的停留一会儿，
to thank you for the kind of God you are.
使我们能够去默想，是来感谢您是美好的上帝。
You are dependable and trustworthy.
主啊，你是我们能够值得我们就是纪念并且能够信靠的上帝。
And we ask for the wisdom
我们把这个我们求您赐给我们智慧，
to collaborate with you.
能够跟你一起合作。
In the name of Jesus,
奉
amen.
主耶稣基督的圣名，我们祈求，阿门。
Are there any questions with regard to tomorrow?
有没有任何这个问题哈？就是关于明天。
How many of you are joining us tomorrow morning for the testing?
我们当中有多少人就是明天要来这个
that's
量
most of you.
血这个抽血检查的哦？
Terry? We are all full, right?
那个我问郑文峰长老说，我们那个人数是不是已经是满的哈？
And you have everything set up for tomorrow morning?
明天早上的事情都已经准备好了是吗？
At what time do you start? 7 o'clock in the morning till 11.
明天早上从7点到11点之间哈。
And you have for breakfast some omelets and some... Okay.
那么呢，有早餐会提供，就是抽完血之后啊。
Okay, are there any questions that you have? Otherwise, I turn it over to the pastor.
有没有任何这个其他的问题啊 ？Okay.
Thank you so much for honoring us today. We appreciate that.
So if you know any of your friends within this group who come to this health seminar, or some of the new friends they come from the community, please spend time to get to know them and make friends with them. And some of them, if they are able to share their interest, wanting to know about our church, about Jesus Christ, about more things, please find them and introduce to me so that we might be able to find a way to engage them in Bible study. Okay? 就说是如果说在座的朋友当中呢，如果说你们可以跟他们一些社区的人来往哈，然后就把他们介绍给我呢，是将来他们有兴趣的话，我们可以开始跟他们教导他们学习圣经啊。好，谢谢。Thank you.
Good to see you again. Yeah.